Welcome to Strip Cover Look, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Ford.
And I'm Dalton Gentry.
And we are here for the conclusion of the final book of Harry Potter. We're done.
Close.
It felt
It
feels good to end.
We're going to wrap up the sixth book. There's still one more to go. But you are on the you're getting ready to go into the last book.
Pardon me. Fuck.
The last book.
What was it?
We're getting close. This is the last two chapters of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Book 6 of the Harry Potter series. It's just terrible. It's terrible when the 40-degree weather.
Fuck!
We're expecting snow in 2 days. Don't you bullshit me. This is chapter 29 and chapter 30. You want me to break this down a little bit for you?
No.
Okay. Chapter 29, we have the Phoenix Lament. Bill was bitten by Greyback during the attack and was severely maimed. They're a little concerned right now whether he's going to turn, whether he's not going to turn. We're going to see what happens with that. Harry goes around, basically informs everyone of what Snape did. We get the shock and the awe. And we get the beautiful Phoenix song of Fawkes as he leaves the castle along with Dumbledore's spirit.
Yep.
Good stuff there. Chapter 30, The White Tomb, is basically just Dumbledore's funeral. We see everybody show up. They pay their respects with everything. Everybody shows up and does something differently. The merfolk are there. The centaurs are there. And then we're unsure of who RAB is still. We're also unsure if Hogwarts is even going to open next year. But Harry says, you know what? I'm still going back to the Dursleys. Because that's what Harry Potter would want. And J.K. Rowling won't know how to start a book without it.
Yeah.
So.
I do enjoy how the centaurs show up just to scare the shit out of people. like they're that guy like, well, I'm mourning.
Hold on.
Better scare someone.
Who do they scare the most, though? Those centaurs.
I must have missed it.
Oh, did you miss that? Okay. We'll get there.
You get there?
We'll get there. All right, so that's what we have. And this book's over. This is it. Dumbledore's dead. Snape killed him.
Yeah.
Moving on with life.
Yeah. Terrible writing, though.
You think so?
I mean, this felt exactly like Looking for Alaska.
Oh, God, I love Looking for Alaska.
I know you do.
That's a good book.
That is melodramatic as all get out.
I would also like to point out, and I can't remember what chapter it is, but like the worst word choice I've ever seen. Do you have the worst word choice ever? Did you catch that?
Was it something erected?
Oh, no, it wasn't erected.
Oh, what was it?
I would like to point out that...
ejaculate.
Yeah, this is the
Someone
chapter in which
ejaculated
Slughorn ejaculates everywhere, which, my God, man.
Yeah.
Word choice.
Yeah.
Word choice. Anyway, how you feeling?
What do you mean?
Well, you had some big concerns that, Snape may have been, a good guy, and, Dumbledore might not actually be dead. No, he's dead. Snape killed him.
Sure, that seems to be the case. I still don't think that it discludes Snape from being a good guy. Who knows what was going on there? Okay. Snape killed him with Avada Kedavra?
Yes.
That's a quick death, right?
That's the quick death, the instant death, shot to the chest. It's over.
Who knows what would have been going on if Drago had actually pulled it off?
Okay.
Would it have been the Avada Kedavra curse? Would it have been something more painful? Would there have I see? This is one of the problems that I have with the series is I'm still not sure the physics of the world. I don't know if your life being taken by dark magic, maybe something happens to your soul that is extra, as the kids say,
I mean, not so much. This is, quite literally, this is just a shot to the head. The man's dead. And, of course, we do get to see his portrait in his office, but that is a very wizarding thing. Once you die, your portrait becomes a thing.
It's a headmaster thing, right?
It's a headmaster thing. So that is normal. There's nothing wrong going on with that there.
Is it just a headmaster thing?
Not necessarily. The portraits are considered basically like living, and they can't interact.
Right, but in the headmaster's office, I thought that all the people there were headmasters.
Yes, in the headmaster's office.
There have been former headmasters from Slytherin.
It would be assumed, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
What house was Diddledore?
I don't believe it was ever specifically said. However, he did obviously very much favor Gryffindor. So it would be assumed he could possibly be a Gryffindor, a very brave man, so that would be the assumption. However, as studious as he was and intelligent as he was, he might be a good vie for a Ravenclaw as well. However, he also seems a little spaced out all the time and is always talking about, eating snacks and loving socks, so Hufflepuff it might be.
Yeah.
Could be anything.
From the Weed House.
But, that's a very normal thing. The painting appears in the headmaster's office, so Dumbledore's painting is there, his memory is there, but Dumbledore is absolutely gone. And we get a very interesting thing here where we are not sure if Hogwarts is even going to reopen. I believe it was a conversation with Lupin. He even said that it was considered to be closed when the Chamber of Secrets was open. And McGonagall said, I'd rather have the beast of Slytherin house running around in the bellies of the castle than, what we're dealing with now. So this is very unlike anything the wizarding world has ever seen. Teacher has murdered the headmaster. Hogwarts is unsafe. It's been infiltrated. Basically, this is the mark for war.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to sum it up.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything along that line that you would like to talk about?
Well, I do think it's interesting. We do get a little glimpse of Scrimgeour again, the Minister of Magic, the War Minister we talked about a little bit. Just very disappointing. When we first get introduced to Scrimgeour, he's very much a Winston Churchill wartime minister. It seems like he's a very strong man, very stoic man, seems to be there to get the job done. However, he's painted in a light here that we see of just almost Weasley. Where he's, trying to get to Harry Potter. He's like, well, Dumbledore's dead. Why don't you help me out? Give me a little something. And Harry says, I still am Dumbledore's man.
It does weaken him.
It does.
I am surprised. So that is just an extremely anti-government sentiment.
Okay.
Right? Because no one from the government in this entire series has been capable or honest or... the closest we have is someone as lowly as the Weasel father.
That's what I was about to say. We do get Arthur Weasley, however, he's just a cog.
He's a cog, and no one likes him.
True.
Right?
No one does like him in the Ministry. However, he seems to be a good, just hardworking man.
Yeah.
A very blue-collar man. We do get some interesting stuff here. I do like the scene with Fawkes and the Phoenix song. I think, especially when you're trying to get towards younger audiences, you have that symbolic representation of the Phoenix, the resurrection, and everything. The Phoenix is gone now. He leaves the castle. We have that Phoenix song, which has always kind of been a big thing in literature, the idea of the Phoenix. So it's a pretty scene. It is.
I thought, so as much melodrama is going on here, there's two things that I felt were especially half-baked and poorly done. The Phoenix song, which we never really get to hear. Obviously, it's written, so we're not going to audibly hear it.
It could have been done better, though, for sure.
If especially as it is something that is recurring here, right? Like, there's half a chapter where that thing's still singing, and Harry Potter just mentions it once every third page.
Yeah.
Second, the relationship with Ginny was extremely half-baked to end up with that much icing on top. The way that was, I don't think we can do this anymore. Harry, we started last week. What are you talking about? Like,
I'm going to take the other end of that spectrum. Let's see. At this point in time, Harry Potter is approximately 16 years old.
Okay.
No 16-year-old boy will go to his girlfriend after any tragedy and be like, hey, I don't think we can keep doing this.
I don't know that that's the opposite side of the coin. I think we've got the same...
Or the same aspect of this.
Same idea here.
Okay, it's very unbelievable. Absolutely so. Nobody has that much foresight at 16 to say, hey, my life's in danger. I can't put you at risk.
I can agree with you 80% of the time. A, we're reading literature, right? B, these are supposed to be outstanding characters, even within a created world. So I could let that part slide a little bit. I can suspend my disbelief for a 16-year-old boy not simply thinking about the smogging. What are they called?
Schnogging?
Schnogging?
Snogging with an S-N, not an M. Smogging is what happens when you get too much smoke in the air. Whatever. Smog and snog.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's a stupid word.
Smaug would be from Tolkien.
Smaugging.
Smauging, if you want to get into a little bit more of that. Anyway, carry on.
Let's get together later and do some
Do some
smaugging.
smauging. We're just going to hoard gold. It's fun. Carry on.
Sounds like a wonderful Friday evening to me. I almost got myself in a lot of trouble there. There is this conversation which happens on 624. Now I want you to close your eyes and just listen along and visualize what's going on. But I don't care either. I don't care, said Tonks, seizing the front of Lupin's robes and shaking them. I've told you a million times, and the meaning of Tonks' Patronus and her mouse-colored hair, and the reason she had come running to find Dumbledore when she heard a rumor someone had been attacked by Greyback, all suddenly became clear to Harry. It had not been Sirius that Tonks had fallen in love with at all. And I've told you a million times, said Lupin, refusing to meet her eyes and staring at the floor, that I am too old for you, too poor, too dangerous. I've said all along that that you're taking a ridiculous line on this, Remus," said Mrs. Weasley over Fleur's shoulder as she patted her on the back. "I'm not being ridiculous," said Lupin steadily. "Tonks deserves someone young and whole." "But she wants you," said Mrs. Weasley with a small smile. "And after all, Remus, young and whole men do not necessarily remain so." He gestured at his son lying between them. "This is not the moment to discuss it," said Lupin, avoiding everyone's eyes and looking around distractedly. "Dumbledore is dead." "Dumbledore would have been happier than anybody to think that there was a little more love in the world," said Professor McGonagall curtly, just as the hospital doors opened again and Hagrid walked in. Just that scene. All the coercion. Why don't you love her? Why don't you take her? Why don't you have her? Imagine Lupin as an older woman and Tonks as a younger man.
Okay.
How does that scene feel?
Very different.
Very different. Now switch the ages alone, and it's a young woman in a relationship. Or wait. I don't know what I wrote here. But if you switch that up at all, it completely undermines the gender assumptions of things. And it feels weird and creepy, doesn't it?
Okay.
Even if it is imagine it's an older man and a group of older people trying to coerce a younger woman into this.
Okay.
So the only way that this works with all this coercion and all this nastiness that's going on there
gender norm.
is to go with the gender norm, which is something that. So first off, imagine it's not a relationship. Imagine it's just the intimate relationship part of this. That's rape, right?
Okay.
So this is emotionally that type of investment. They are trying to talk him into something that he so incredibly is against. That he is, like Harry Potter, sacrificing his own short-term happiness for her long-term well-being. So that whole thing feels just icky.
Icky.
Doesn't it?
Well, let me try to play devil's advocate with this here.
You can try.
Now, obviously what we're getting for here is Lupin is afraid that because he is a werewolf, and that is what strikes this conversation, that he may do harm to Tonks, and in the event that maybe they have a child, maybe the child will be afflicted as well as Lupin. In that light, I can respect Lupin for that, absolutely, for sure, saying, no, I don't want this. I'd rather me suffer and put myself out than pass this curse on to a child. So good on him for that. But that's really about the best you can look at that. I will agree with you on that aspect of things.
So you say I'm going to play devil's advocate, and then
I
refuse to play devil's advocate.
Piss off. So I would like to point out, though, that I had a feeling you were going to talk about that conversation, but I didn't think you were going to take that line with it. Well, yeah.
What do you think I was going to talk
Remus
about?
Lupin walks in and says, "No, I'm too old, too poor, and too dangerous." I'm like, "Are you fucking serious, JK? That's the cheesiest motherfucking thing I've ever seen."
Well, it also
Now, if it's implied, yes, but nobody says I'm too old, too poor, and too dangerous for you.
Here's the real kick in the balls. For anyone watching this thinking, "Oh, well, J.K. Rowling is just an upstanding citizen and a moral compass." Why would anyone ever be too poor? Why would someone be too poor to take a lover? Because the expectation is on a man to earn money in society, which is a stereotype that apparently J.K. Rowling is more than willing to play into.
Okay.
Am I wrong?
No. I'm still waiting for the day that I just get a package at home and it's just a dress from J.K. Rowling. I'm like, nope, not going to open that. Not doing that one.
What is this white powder on the outside?
But it is an interesting scene. If we get back to the basics of that scene where we do have Bill laying here, maimed by Greyback, and we are unsure if he's contracted this disease.
Well, and here's something further. Here's something further along with that nasty little scene. The metaphor for werewolves in this text, right? It plays this weird sort of line where it seems a lot like maybe a metaphor for AIDS. Remember we had that discussion?
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong, but it felt that way, did it not?
It did.
The way it popped up.
Yeah.
We as a society are morally superior to these other people, and these other people have this nasty disease that forces them to, that comes about when they're doing nasty things at night And
They're
the whole thing-
ostracizing people based on a disease they have.
Yeah. So if it is that bad, why would we have an entire room of people coercing someone to put a young person in that role?
It's true.
So, but when you look at it from the metaphor perspective, if something like the AIDS virus is the metaphor at play here, no, go ahead, give it to her. She wants it, man.
Okay, that makes it even worse.
Yeah. So
Okay.
there's nothing about that. See, so with a series like this where you have extended metaphors, things will reach a slippery slope and take a terrible turn at some point, because what happens is the metaphor's not at play here. You can very plainly see that J.K. Rowling is not writing this metaphorical. She's writing these characters. Tonks is in love with Lupin. This is the character. This is what the character wants. This is that scene and how it would play out. The metaphor is nowhere to be seen.
Okay.
So when you forget that metaphor as a writer, you put yourself in dangerous places where something like this can come out.
Okay. Now let's talk. Let's move to a different subject here. I'd like to hammer this one back in about J.K. Rowling. We argue a lot. Did she mean for this to mean that? Did she mean for this to mean that? Did she imply this? Did she imply that?
Yeah. Well, which is what you do with literature, right?
That's what you do with literature. That's how you break down literature.
That is A, the onus of the writer, but B, it is the grace that we're granting children's literature here.
And we do talk every now and then that
Children's literature.
there is something just so apparent with this that there is no way she was not aware of it. No way. If she was, my God, man, how are you this successful as a writer and not be like just have the basis of an education for things like this? Centaurs. What do centaurs do?
They rape. Centaurs rape.
Yeah,
They're rape machines.
Rape machines. And we had the conversation: was Dolores Umbridge raped by these centaurs?
Right.
Scene
Seemed very obvious.
It did.
By the way.
Who's the only person at the funeral who gets very, very spooked by the idea of the centaur being there?
I didn't notice.
Dolores Umbridge. Again, it is implied that she is terrified of the centaurs now.
So this is victim shaming, essentially, right?
I wouldn't go that far. I was just trying to hammer in this point again because we got into this huge argument that, like, no, it's not implied. Like, no, if centaurs are in a literary setting, centaurs are rape machines.
If centaurs, a group of male centaurs carries a woman away, screaming and hollering, after which she is found disheveled
And terrified.
terrified of the thought of centaurs. Like, there are tons of ways to read that.
Yes.
Some readings are more valid than others.
But here we are, an entire book later, and she comes back to it.
This is victim shaming.
Comes back to it that this happened, and like
Because it is not shown in a favorable light.
No.
It's never said, ooh, she was kind of worried there and it was understandable. She's pointed at and laughed.
Yes, very
In the
much
text,
so.
she's pointed at and laughed. That's victim shaming.
Yeah, okay, we'll go
can
with
say
it.
it.
We'll go with it that it's victim shaming. But again, we've had an argument. It's been a long-standing argument. We said that we are standing on our ground here. If centaurs are in literature and this scene happens, this implies rape. Again, an entire book later, it is such a thing for J.K. Rowling. She is so aware of what she is implying
That she just puppets it up.
that she puts it up there again. So this is not a mistake. This is not a cute little mistake that J.K. Rowling just slipped in there or wasn't thinking about. This is directly implied.
This is the classic Shrek type thing where there's little jokes for adults to laugh at that are going to go completely over kids' head while they're laughing at the funny mule.
Absolutely. My father watches this show and he knows I'm filming. Why the hell is he calling me right now?
So do you need to take it?
No, we'll get back to him. We'll call him back. He can wait and he'll know. We shame on him when he watches this episode. Shame, Jim. Shame.
For shame.
For shame. I do think the scene with the funeral, the white tomb,
So if he watches this, should I make fewer jokes about you?
no, he loves it. He thinks
Okay.
it's hilarious. Yeah, you're
a good man, Jim.
You're basically him, so it's okay. The scene with the funeral, the white tomb, I do think that was well done. You have a very respected member of the wizarding community being put to rest, and we get the full spectrum of people. Dolores Umbridge is there, despite the fact Dolores Umbridge obviously hated Dumbledore.
Had to be there.
She had to be there, though, and she pays her respects. The merfolk pay her their respects by singing their song. The centaurs shoot
No
the
one would
arrows.
have missed them.
Hagrid carries Dumbledore to his resting place, which there's a lot to be said about that. The most powerful man in the wizarding world, they're allowing this outcast of society, which any other headmaster would have shunned and not allowed on the grounds, to carry him to his final resting place. So it really pushes that idea of Dumbledore as the ultimate good of this piece. It really does.
Right, you have to imagine that that was something that was in his will.
Yeah, it's a very pure moment.
What it reeks of is the I am Christ, I will wash my disciples' feet scene.
Okay.
Right? So the great man putting himself at the whim of someone who is lesser.
Keep that in mind. Just take that idea and just stick it back there.
What part of it?
The idea of a Christ-like scene with Dumbledore.
Okay.
Just let it mull.
Okay.
We're going to come back to that, I promise.
Oh no.
There's a lot going on with that. But anyway, I do think it is a good scene. It is a sad scene, but it's done well.
Yeah.
It is done well. I do think it's unfortunate, though, that in the end, the conclusion of this novel is be like, well, back to the Dursleys. It's so obvious there. She's like, J.K. Rowling doesn't know how to start this book, so I better just go back.
Yeah. Hey, let's go put everyone at risk.
Yeah,
because
why not?
Moldavort is someone who's obviously not afraid to kill a muggle, right? So let's just put them all at risk. You know,
why not? Seems
take them
good.
away from anyone who knows a shred of magic, and put him in the middle of a neighborhood.
Be good for him. Anything else you want to talk about here
I've
with the
got
last
two.
two chapters?
I've got
Please.
two things. One, who takes over for Dumbledore?
It is implied that McGonagall will.
Called it. What? Well, no, it's not implied. She assumes the title. She's referred to with the title.
Okay.
Why is a female headmaster? That was my point. Why is a female headmaster called a headmistress?
Well, for a big pinnacle of social justice like J.K. Rowling, you would assume that we would have a just general headmaster.
Yeah, you created the entire fucking world and decided to call the female headmaster a headmistress. You created the entire world and decided that a female headmaster has to sound like a pornographer.
I feel like you've been saving that one this whole video. Like that's you were waiting to go out with that.
I got one more. This is not a criticism, just an observation. This is the first book I remember with a Hollywood-type visual ending. I bet the movie for this, if you can remember, I bet it ended with a quick zoom and an overwhelming music escalation on whatever that scene was at the end. Do you know what I'm talking about? His hand closed automatically around a fake Horcrux, but in spite of everything, in spite of the dark, the twisting path he saw stretching ahead of himself, in spite of the final meeting with Voldemort, he knew he must come, whether in a month, in a year, or in 10. He felt in his heart at the thought that there was still one last golden day of peace left to enjoy with Ron and Hermione.
It's very Star Trek-y. Khan!
Well, it's very, like, you can see him clutching it behind his back or something, and the camera just zooms in, and the music becomes overwhelming. That's
Not how the movie ends. To be honest with you,
then the movie ended wrong.
to be honest with you, I do enjoy this movie, and I have watched it recently, and I couldn't tell you how it ended.
Beginnings and ends in the Harry Potter books are probably like beginnings and ends in the Harry Potter movies.
Yeah, something
they're
with the
not memorable.
Dursleys and then a fizzle.
Yeah.
Okay. So, this is the last two chapters of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Now, we will be back next week. We are going to wrap up the whole thing. We're going to talk about it as a whole, where we're going from here, what we thought about this as compared to the others. Basically, the big grand finale ultimo of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. And then after that, maybe we'll take a bit of a respite, maybe give you a week. We'll see.
No, after that, I'm going to have a response to the why you should keep reading Harry Potter.
Okay. I am not going to watch that video. I want you to know that.
Yeah, you printed them off for me.
I did. I gave you a lot of
gave me
comments from our Harry Potter comments, because I do exclusively read these if you'd like to comment in the Harry Potter section.
So there is no need to worry about spoilers.
But then we are going to, at this point, Adrian, 3 years into Strip Cover Lit, we are going to start the last book of Harry Potter. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows.
You're goddamn right we are.
You're excited about this. This is good news moving forward. I
have my copy already.
Okay.
I've ripped out every third page.
Okay. I actually had 2 copies, so I didn't know if you needed one, but I brought you one. 'Cause, I just like copies.
Oh.
All right, so we're going to get into that. So we will be back here in a few weeks with Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. But we will be back next week with Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, grand finale ultimo, our full conclusion of the entire novel. So if you'd like to join us on this Harry Potter adventure, this Adrian Reed's Harry Potter adventure, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and ring the little bell down below as well to get notifications every single time we upload a video here at Strip Cover Lit. And if you are so inclined to help us continue to create content like this, there is a link, as always, to our Patreon to be found in the description below.
But if you are a fan of Harry Potter, be prepared for abuse.
Good.
I'm going to edit all of the times that we stop filming and you just go, good?
Good.
I'm going to edit them all together so